Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I wanted to go over all the different 4-star characters you have the chance to get for free and help you make the right decision in choosing one. Because honestly, if you don't choose the correct character, the damage could be devastating and you will never be able to beat Genshin Impact. All jokes aside though, I'm going to go over each character and let you know their main role, kind of what they do, and how they can improve your overall team in Genshin Impact. Now, of course, after the video, if you guys have more questions, feel free to comment down below. Let me know what your question is. I'll try and answer it to the best of my ability. But for Xiangling, overall great DPS, pretty decent support. You don't have to worry about having a good weapon for her because she has the Crescent Pike. But honestly, you should get a free Xiangling anyway. And if you're trying to get her like constellations up, C1 doesn't really do much for DPS Xiangling. It's more of a support build. Constellation 2 kind of helps with DPS, but not really because it's doing pyro damage and you're building your Xiangling for physical damage usually. And then the rest of the constellations mainly just improve her fire damage, which isn't going to help DPS Xiangling too much, but more support Xiangling. Overall, really solid character though, and if you don't have her, you can grab her from this event, but you get it for free from the Abyss, so it's kind of up to you on that one if you want a constellation or not. If you are using her as a support, you can build her for pyro damage and proc melt with her while she's off the field. She could also help with vaporize, but honestly, there's better characters for proccing vaporize. If you don't have them though, then Xiangling can work. Now, Xinyan was one of my favorite characters that recently came out on the Xiangling banner. She boosts her physical damage by 15% with her E. She's got a pretty decent pyro shield, and if you build a DPS, she does some pretty good damage. Overall, really solid character. The only thing that sucks though is that her E, which was supposed to increase physical damage, kinda gets overlooked now by Zhongli if you have Zhongli, because Zhongli's shield is better, and it does the same thing but drops it more. Her constellations are pretty good. C1 is really only good for using her as a DPS, so if you're planning on using your Xinyan as a support, I wouldn't grab the extra Xinyan from this event for C1. If you already have C1 though, C2 is huge on Xinyan for support and DPS. So if you're planning on using your Xinyan for either of those, I would recommend grabbing her, as it gives you another shield on your alt cast and makes your alt 100% crit rate, which is insane. And I'd say her next best constellation is C4, drops her physical res by another 15%, which is huge for physical damage dealers. Improves her overall as a DPS or support for your Razor or something like that. And C6 is just an overall boost to her DPS. Not really effective for support, but it's up to you on how you want to play her. Overall, pretty solid pyro shield user. Would recommend getting her if you don't have a pyro support or a good DPS yet, because she does pretty decent damage. Team comps, you really want to rock her in a physical DPS comp, because that's what her shield improves, is physical DPS. You can rock Xinyan in a melt comp, but it's not very consistent, because if you're not hitting at least 2 or 3 enemies with her E, you're not getting that fire damage to constantly proc from her shield, unless you're using her alt from C2, which gives you an instant level 3 shield. So mainly physical DPS for Xinyan. And she has the Pyro Resonance buff for 2-piece, so if you need an extra Pyro user, you don't have one, she's pretty good for that. Now, Beidou is definitely one of the fan favorites. Overall, great damage dealer, great sub DPS, does a crap ton of damage, and she has an awesome looking design. That's just bonus points in my opinion. She is a great Electro unit if you don't have a good Electro. If all you have is Lisa, Lisa's good, don't get me wrong. But Beidou, I don't know. Probably a little bit better, but that's just my opinion, of course. Constellations, honestly, most of her constellations are pretty good for DPS or support. All of them pretty much increase her overall damage. So honestly, if it's your first time choosing her or you want a constellation on her, pretty much all of her constellations are good. I wouldn't recommend not getting her for any of them. And just a little side note, she does decrease party stamina consumption while you're swimming. So pretty good overall for an Electro unit. Now, Ningguang, probably one of the most broken characters on the list, just because she does so much damage. You can literally look up probably 1,000 different Ningguang one-shotting Dvalin guides on YouTube, and there's probably more than 1,000 of them that do it in like 10 seconds. Especially with the new Geo buffs that just came out, Ningguang is huge if you pair her with two Geo units. Overall, really solid DPS character, and if you don't have her and you need a good DPS, I would recommend grabbing her. Most of her constellations are pretty insane. If you are going for constellations on Ningguang, and she's your main DPS, I would recommend going for her. C1 makes your normal attacks AoE, which is just a huge damage increase. C2 is pretty good, not as good as C1 though. C4, kind of lame to me. I don't know. It's kind of lame. If you're gonna go for this one and you just want to get closer to C6, you can. But I would recommend maybe choosing a different character for if you don't have them yet. And then C6, overall more damage, insane constellation, great for DPS. Another awesome thing about Ningguang is that she displays the ores all around the map, not even just in leeway. She does it in Mondstadt too, so she's really good for ore mining if you, for some reason, don't like to use the interactive map online, because that's cheating. And she's super easy to use. Xingqiu, probably one of the best supports on the list. I'm sure if you look up Xingqiu on YouTube, literally every single one says why Xingqiu is the most underrated support. He's so good. Why does he confuse my sexuality? You know, all that stuff. But yeah, I can't agree. He's probably one of the best overall supports. He amplifies your damage a lot, especially with Vaporize comps. Using with someone like Diluc allows Diluc to prop Vaporize very consistently, which is huge for Diluc, especially when he's using his ult. He doesn't really have a support that can do that for him. Chungus is kind of meh with Diluc. Kaya, you know, Kaya is Kaya. He's a free character. Nobody wants to use a free character, dude. Anyways, great overall support. Constellations, all they really do is just amp up his damage more and more. C1's pretty good. C1 is one of his best constellations, honestly, because it gives his Rain Sword one more proc, which allows it to last a little bit longer if you're constantly getting hit, and take reduced damage. C2 is great for your ult, increasing more damage, allowing it to last longer, proc more vaporizes. C4 is more damage, and C6 is more damage. Overall, great constellations. If you're going for a really insane Xingqiu build and you want more damage, his constellations are pretty good for that. Now, another reason why Xingqiu is huge if you don't have him is because when you're crafting character talent books, like, you know, the resistance, the freedoms, the golds, he has a chance to refund a portion of the materials used, and he has helped me save so many overall materials that I have fallen in love with him, whether he is a man or a female, for the love of God. Great overall unit to get. If you don't have him yet, I would suggest getting him just for that talent materials. If you're not really looking to add a new character to your team, you just want to have a new character. Pretty good. And he's Hydro. Not many Hydro characters in the game yet. So overall, good Hydro support. I don't know when you're going to add a new one. Might be a while, might be soon. Who knows? And then there's Chungus. Chungus is good overall. I had a friend that used him as DPS for a while, but Chungus kind of gets outscaled by almost every other Claymore user, just because his normal attack ratios are so low compared to other ones. His E is really good for other users that are trying to proc like Melt in the field, but it does kind of also ruin them, like Razor. I wouldn't pair Chungus with Razor just for your super conduct, just because when you're in that E, Razor's doing cryo damage with his normal attacks, and that kind of messes up his physical damage that he gets from his Ascension, and the physical damage cup that you're probably running on him. So, but if you only have Kaya, I would recommend pulling for Chungus if you need the extra help breaking those electric Fatui shields and Abyss. Overall, I'm pretty sure his ult one-shots the shields if you use it properly. Pretty good ice support character. I wouldn't say he's the best DPS, but he can DPS if you need a DPS. He can do a ton of damage though in a melt comps if he's built for it. His constellations do amp up his damage a lot. Like C1 makes his normal attacks hit with an extra cryo at the end, which does increase his DPS build. C2 really helps with overall DPS and support Chungus, because it's allowing your skills and bursts in the field to have their cooldown time decreased, which is pretty massive for some characters. C4 is really good for DPS Chungus, allows you to regenerate your ult faster with extra energy every time you hit an opponent with cryo. That's really good synergy with his E. And then his C6 is just overall makes his ult turn into more of an execution ult, rather than just you throw down a bunch of ice shards and they do a bunch of damage. It does amplify his damage a lot as well. So if you do love your Chungus and you love damage, C6 is really good for him if that's what you're going for. Overall though, Chungus does get a lot of hate, but he is a pretty solid overall character. Some characters you can say are better, some aren't, because he is the cryo element and there's not really another cryo Claymore. And if you don't have Diona and you only have Kaya, Chungus can be huge for an extra cryo unit. That's pretty much it though for each character. If you do have any more questions about each character you want to know, like if you have a certain comp you have and you want to know if they fit well into your comp, just to overall help your team comp out, feel free to comment below in the description your team comp or any more questions you have, I'll answer them. Or you can let me know on my Twitch. I'll be live later today, so if you have any questions and you don't want to comment down below for some reason, you'd rather talk with me live, I'll be live there later, so feel free to check me out there and drop a follow while you're there if you want, I don't know. But yeah, I hope this helps some of you guys figure out your decisions for each character you want. If it did help you or had some new information you didn't know, make sure you guys drop me a like because it really helps my channel and helps my channel boost in the algorithm. I'm trying to reach 2,000 subs by the end of the year as well, so if you guys can help me out with that by subbing, I'd really appreciate it. And if you really hate me and you don't like my content, you can unsub later. It's up to you, but thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Peace.